Welcome to the Wayne Public Library's virtual author chat. My guest today is Gina Azzi. Gina writes contemporary and sports romance books with heartwarming happily ever afters. She is the author of the Burnt Clovers trilogy, Knoxville Coyotes football, Tennessee Thunderbolts, Boston Hawks hockey, Second Chance Chicago, Finding Love in Scotland, the Kane Brothers, and the College Pack series, as well as the YA standalone Corner of Ocean and Bay. A Jersey girl at heart, Gina spent her 20s living and working abroad before settling down in Ontario, Canada, with her husband and three children. She's a voracious reader, daydreamer, and coffee enthusiast who loves meeting new people. Welcome, Gina. Please tell us a little more about yourself and your new novel, Rebellious Rockstar.
Thank you so much, Janet. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat books with you this evening. My name is Gina Azzi, and I'm a contemporary and sports romance author. I've been writing for about since 2015, but this past year I stepped out of my comfort zone with sports romance and I dipped my toes into the rockstar romance world and I wrote my first trilogy. So there are three connected books, and books 1 and 2 end on a cliffhanger. And book 1 is Rebellious Rockstar, which released this summer.
Is there something about Rebellious Rockstar that you could tell us that we wouldn't find in the blurb?
Yes. So Rebellious Rockstar is a brother's best friend, forbidden romance. It's very angsty and it's very emotional. So it was a little bit off brand for me. But I'd been wanting to write this book and this story about our hero, Derek, and heroine, Allegra, for a really long time, because something that's not in the blurb is that Derek popped up in several of my Boston Hawks hockey romances as kind of like this bad boy musician. And Boston Hawks hockey team does not like him. And he got stuck in my mind, and I wanted to find a way to make him redeemable and tell his story. And another part that's not in the blurb that I think is interesting is that Derek was brought up in the foster care system. And so Allegra's work starts to overlap with pieces of his past that he doesn't want her to know about and secrets that he has. And so it's like another area of tension and angst between them.
Okay. Wow. That does have a lot going on. That's not in the blurb.
Yes.
What is it about rock stars that make them great heroes?
I think this is a great question. I think rock stars are great heroes because they are surrounded by so many temptations and vices, and they tend to have, the reputation of being like edgy, bad boy. But then when they find the heroine, the right woman, they reform. And I think that as readers, we're always rooting for them to reform and to have this happily ever after and to like be deserving of this great love and to find that. So I think it tends to be like more tumultuous, emotionally complicated stories, but I think readers are really invested in seeing the rock star get his happily ever after.
You mentioned that Derek, the hero from Rebellious Rockstar, was actually in one of your other series. That was one of my next questions. That was my next question. That you've written several series. Is it difficult to keep continuity with all of the storylines and characters within each series? Well, my one question that you kind of already answered is, has there been any crossover, or are you going to revisit any of the series?
This is a great question as well. It is, I keep kind of like a massive Excel Bible of all of the details and characteristics because my books and series do have a lot of crossover. One of the first series I wrote was the Kane Brothers series, and it was 3 books about 3 brothers, but then it crossed over into the Finding Love in Scotland series, because the first book in that series, One Last Chance, is about Daisy Kane, who's the Kane sister. And that was the first time I tried that. And it was just so much fun. And I felt like the world got bigger. So when I wrote Boston Hawks Hockey, which is a 9-book series, I kind of started to create more of a universe. So Boston Hawks Hockey takes place in Boston. It overlaps a little bit with the Burnt Clovers, which was also set in Boston. But then the Boston Hawks hockey series spins off into the Tennessee Thunderbolts series, which overlaps with Knoxville Coyotes. So there's a lot of crossover, and a lot of characters showing up in different books and in different series. And I think readers love to see that. They love to see, like, what is this couple up to, now that it's 3 years since their book ended? And, have they gotten married? Did they have a child? Are they growing a family? Have they changed careers? So I think it's fun. And it also pulls new readers in who are reading a book for the first time to be like, oh, hey, that character was really interesting. I want to read their story. So I think it helps to have that crossover, but it's just really fun. It's like little Easter eggs for readers to find.
Absolutely. I know I read
Yeah,
series mostly, and that's a
I
lot.
do
That's a
too.
lot to have all that crossover. It's a lot if readers understood the behind the scenes of like trying to keep that flow and not, put the wrong people together or them in the wrong place, and then because the readers know and they'll come back to
They
you with
know.
they
It's true. So have to keep on top of it, but I love it too because as a reader, I love that. I love to catch up with characters, and as a writer, I feel so invested in the characters and in the couples, and like they become such a part of everything that like I've put into them that I'm usually not ready to say goodbye, which is what happened with Boston Hawks. It was only supposed to be 3 books, then it was 6 books, then it was 9 books. Then I was like, I'm going to keep this couple and now he's going to be a coach. I'm going to start a new series, and it's just hard sometimes to let them go. So it's been really cool to keep incorporating different elements of different series, and just expanding the world.
So all of those series, all of those couples, do you have a favorite couple from one of your books?
Ew, so it tends to be so right now, and it usually is like this. It tends to be the book I'm working on, just because I'm spending the most time with them. So this past week, I wrapped up writing the first book in the Knoxville Coyote series. It's called Faked and Fumbled, and it's releasing November 30th. And it's the first book in this football series. And the main characters are Cohen and Rhea. And it was just such a ball to write them because they have so much banter. They are hilarious. It's a brother's best friend fake dating book where they go on this ski trip. There's one bed, like it is comical and it's just a lot more lighthearted than the Rockstar World, which I had previously finished writing with Derek and Allegra. So it was like a nice palate cleanser and just effortless and fun. So right now I would say they are my favorite couple, but I also one of my like all-time favorites was The Faker, which is book 3 in Boston Hawks hockey. And it was Torsten Hansen and Riel, and it's a marriage of convenience romance. And that's one of my favorite tropes to read and my favorite tropes to write. So that book as well, I think I wrote it in about 3 weeks. Like I just couldn't stop. It was pouring out of me. And so I think just that aspect of it has made it stick with me and made their relationship really have an impression on me.
Wow. Wow. Okay. um, um, and you kind of just mentioned, what are you currently working on? But I'm going to add to that question. And
Sure.
you finished your rock star. So do you write all three that you said is a trilogy? Or do you write all the books in the trilogy at like back to back, or do you switch off and write a different series, like one book in a different series?
Yeah. With Derek and Allegra, I wrote the 3 books back to back. Um, but within this larger rockstar world, something that I was trying for the first time was this program called Kindle Vella, and it's more serialized romantic fiction through the Amazon app, and this is more releasing one chapter or one episode at a time. So I started this for the first time and I used a character from the Rockstar World. His name's Mav and he's the drummer in the band. And so I've been working on his book throughout this year. And so I this week book 2 will finish. So this has been the first time I've been trying to simultaneously write in different series and different worlds. And that's been a little bit tricky, but also really nice going back to that like palette cleanser because I'm writing 2 chapters a week in Mav's world, which is angsty and emotional and high stakes, while also working on this really lighthearted and fun, hilarious banter football book. So it's a little bit of both, but usually I write really consistently and just work one book at a time within a series until the series is finished.
So football, hockey. I'm looking at all the different, are these some of your favorite sports to watch? Yeah.
Yes, and honestly, more so as a reader, I love to read sports romances. But my husband is like really angling for me to write a basketball series. So so we'll see. But yeah, I
Wow.
tend to just really write what I like to read, and that's why I love reading Marriage of Convenience. Love to write Marriage of Convenience tropes. So
Okay. Um, well, you've mentioned a lot of different books. How many books have you written in total? Like, and how long have you been writing?
I've been writing since 2015 is when I first self-published Corner of Ocean and Bay. It was my first book, and it was a young adult novel that was more centered on friendship than romance. And then that same year, I published my first romance, which was The Last First Game, and that was a football romance. So that was sort of like dipping my toes in, but I from the beginning loved sports romance. Um, I've written just over 30 books since then. So
Goodness.
it's been
Um,
busy.
so 2015, 30 books. That's a lot of books. Um, what inspired you to start writing, well, start writing the YA novella and then, go and into the romance, the
Yeah,
sports book?
it was really kind of by accident. I was living in Manhattan, and this was back in 2011. And I really wanted to meet new people and connect with people. And I was interning. And so I started taking writing classes. And as part of our writing class, we wrote a piece of fan fiction and like flash fiction. And I wrote this like snippet. And the people in my class, said you should really develop that further into a short story. And so I did. And then someone encouraged me, why don't you try writing a novel and expanding it more? And so Corner of Ocean and Bay is very heavily influenced by my like personal experience of spending summers at the Jersey Shore. And then as I got older in Long Beach Island. And I just loved all these summer friendships, and it was so magical. So the book is really inspired about changing friendships kind of as you reach that 17, 18-year-old age before you're going off to college, and having it set against the backdrop of, the beach town where people have known you for so long, and there's just so much familiarity as well for one of the characters, and then the other character was a newcomer. Um, so I just loved it so much. But at the time I was reading so much romance. So after I wrote that book, I was just once again like heavily influenced by the fact of what do I love to read? This is what I want to write. So I loved reading sports romance. So I said, okay, I'm going to write a series. It was a college pack series. And all four books are different sports romances, but that was very heavily influenced by my college years, where one of the characters is a rower, and I rowed in university, and one of the characters studies abroad in Italy, and I had done that. And so I was kind of like finding my way, but really using pieces of my own experiences to create the world. And then once I dipped my toe into romance, I really just never looked back. And now I can't imagine writing anything different because I love it so much.
Oh, wow. So what would you say your author voice is?
I write all of my books in first person, dual POV between like the two main characters. And I think my author voice is a bit of like a stream of consciousness from the character's thoughts. There tends to be fragments and not complete sentences, not complete thoughts. I also think it's a little bit poetic. I absolutely love poetry, and quite emotional. I think a lot of readers will tell me like they've cried. And so I tend to, yes, sway more onto the emotional aspect.
What would you say is the most difficult part of writing for you?
Second guessing myself. This happens a lot around the like 20,000 word mark. Usually I get about a third of the way in, and everything that I've planned out, now that I'm writing it, I can see all these different paths that could take place. And I start to think, is my original plan the best plan, or should these characters go down this different path or in this new direction? And then I really second guess myself and think, should I start over? And so now I've gotten it a little bit under control. I work with a developmental editor and we, check in weekly and kind of keeps me on track. But the finished product usually ends up being a bit of both, where sometimes they go down the new path, but I don't necessarily like scrap everything I've worked up until that point. But I think that's the most difficult part, is just always wanting to tell the best story and be true to the characters and be true to their journey, and know that you're making the right choice and giving them the best story they can have.
And from what you just said, are you a seat of your pants writer or are you a plotter?
I think I'm a hybrid.
Um, Most people all the authors I've talked to, I would say about 80% say they're hybrid. Very few have said
Yeah.
they're one or the other completely.
Yes. Yeah. I kind of outline very broadly. And then I start to write. And then that's why once you start, it can go in these different ways. And then it's kind of like, okay, do I try something new or do I stick to the original plan, or do I just make some tweaks? So it'll vary.
Right. How long on average does it take you to write a book? You said 3 weeks for one that just poured
That
out
was
of you,
one.
but what's in how long usually?
Yeah, usually about 6 weeks after I've outlined. So I would say 2 months if it's the entire process. Within like a 2 month window, I'll have um, my first manuscript completed, and then I send it to two different beta readers who will give me feedback on that before I send it to an editor. But on average, I try to write 3,000 words a day from Monday to Friday. So I'll have like the chunk within a month's time of what I'm really working with, and then spend a couple of weeks like tweaking and adding and changing things around as needed.
Do you have a writing routine? Like, do you write at a specific hour of the day or night?
Not really. I have three small kids. So now that they're in school, it's gotten a lot more consistent because I write when they're in school. But it just depends. My goal is always like get 3,000 words done. And if I'm able to get up early in the morning and do that before anybody else wakes up, that's awesome. And if the day goes away and I have to sit down at night, then I do that.
Okay. Do you listen to music while you write? And if so,
I
what do you listen
do.
to?
I do. I love Spotify. I listen to a lot of country music, but I just do the Spotify made for you. You know how they'll
Mhm.
choose the songs. And yeah, I just keep that on in the background. It's really hard for me to work with in silence. So I always have music on. And if it's not music, it'll be like the news, television, something in the background.
And you said you to country. Is that because of like the setting for Knoxville and your other and the Tennessee, or
Yeah.
is it just your preference?
No, that's great. I never even made that connection. I think it's just my preference. My college roommate was from Georgia, and like she just got me into country music. I'd never listened to it before. She just had it on all the time, and like since then it's stuck with me. It's like my go-to.
Okay. Um, do you hear from your readers? You've mentioned a few, tell you that they cry or that it's very angsty. And do you hear from them, and what kind of things do they say?
Yeah, it's honestly, I think that's the best part. It's like the greatest compliment and the most wonderful thing ever when a reader reaches out and connects and, sends me an email or a message through social media. I have heard from readers I think the best thing a reader's ever said to me was she was a army veteran, and it was after I wrote Rescuing Broken, and she wrote to me and said, you really got the PTSD right. And like I related to it so much, and I just like cried, and I just thought, okay, because sometimes the topics that I'll write about are quite emotional and they are very sensitive, and I always want to like do justice and be true to the character, but also be incredibly empathetic about the topic. And so having her reach out and say that really meant a lot to me. But then other readers, when they just say, I read this in one sitting, or I didn't sleep last night, or I broke my Kindle. That was more about Derek and Allegra. I'm like, I'm sorry, but also thank you. So
It's great.
yeah, it's
Um,
the good.
you mentioned you talk about some deep topics. Do you research? What's your research process for those? the topics that you've covered, as you said, on the foster care system and PTSD. I'm sure there's others that you've done a lot of research, or no?
Yeah, no, I do. I spend a lot of time like part of the research is just, like reading up on things, reading articles, understanding statistics, but then also speaking to people who've had similar experiences if they're willing to share more about their personal experience. I try to talk to several people because I never want to use one person's like actual experience, but just the common themes or feelings or like topics that will come up. I can say, okay, this is, if something is a trigger or something specific that causes it or an anxious response, well, then that's something that I can incorporate. So yeah, I always try to be very cognizant that I'm writing about topics, that I do the research necessary, and also have a sensitivity reader, have somebody with firsthand experience read what I wrote as well to weigh in and say, this is accurate, or like, no, this wouldn't be a real response.
Um, so you mentioned your first the YA story came from your writing class. What was your publishing journey? How did you decide to self-publish? Was the YA novel, was it self-published also?
Yes, all of my books have been self-published.
How did you make that decision to self-publish? Did you send it out to the big publishers, or did you always know, no, this is the route that I wanted to go?
Right. I never sent it out to big publishers. I knew from the get-go, specifically with writing romance, that I wanted to have a lot of creative control in terms of covers and even just topics. And I don't think I knew, like in hindsight, I probably should have learned more about the process before I made that decision, because it's not that I'm like for or against any of the options. It's just that at the time I was writing at a pace where I was like, okay, I really want to be able to publish this and share this with readers, and I don't want to have to wait 18 months or whatever, and first query and go through the whole process. So I knew right off the bat. And I think that self-publishing has allowed me to connect with readers and consistently publish on a time frame that I don't know if the traditional publishing world would have allowed. So
Probably not. Not the way
yeah.
traditional publishers. Um,
Yeah.
so your publisher is Three Cities Publishing. Is that your
Yes,
publishing?
it's me.
It's you. Okay, I figured.
Yes.
And when did you create the publishing, the LLC, I assume?
Yes, it's an LLC, and I created it in 2019, like right as I was finishing the Kane Brothers. Rescuing Broken was the first book that I had that did like well enough in a way where I was like, okay, I can make this a real career choice, and it's time to now treat it as a proper business. And less is just this thing that I'm so passionate about and love to do.
And
So
was that hard, like learning that part of it, like the business part of it, and creating the LLC, or what did you already kind of had already learned, gleaned as much of it from just being an author for 4 years, it sounds.
yeah, for me, the business side of it is much harder, is much harder. I always thought, oh, writing the book will be the hard part, but I find the writing to be the easiest, and it's everything else with the proper packaging and marketing and changing covers, or do you want to do audio? Do you want to do translations? What is that going to look like? So I think that's been the greater challenge, but I enjoy it so much. One of the things that I love about this business is the fact that you get to wear so many hats. So while I write every day, after those 3,000 words, the rest of the day can be filled with so many different things, from like working on ads or connecting with other authors or writing my newsletter. And I like that. I feel like having the variety of different tasks, that's been really rewarding, because I feel like I'm always learning, I'm always growing, I'm always meeting new people. And the other thing that's been really wonderful is the author romance community. That's like hands down been one of the greatest aspects of this career path, because it's comprised of predominantly women, but like a lot of self-starters, and they're so positive. It's a really uplifting community where I've met some of my closest friends, and people are just so willing and generous with their data and time to help you. So while it was definitely a learning curve for me, I also think it wasn't nearly as difficult because of the support I've received.
Um,
Sorry.
you recently signed a deal with Tantor Audio to have the Tennessee Thunderbolts series and the Burnt Clover trilogy published in audio format. Will these be the first of your books to be available in audio?
No, I'm actually thrilled to work with Tantor because I've worked with them previously and it's been wonderful. They've also done the King Brothers series and the College Pack series in audio. And I've done the Boston Hawks hockey series as self-published in audio as well.
Okay. I love audio. Like
Do you love
almost
audio?
exclusively listen to audio. So anybody who puts stuff on audio, I'm like, yay.
Yes. I just got into it recently and now I
I,
feel like it's wonderful.
I live on audio. Look, I have multiple things
Great.
I'm listening to at the same time.
Okay.
Um, so you did mention the community. Are you a member of a writers group or do you have critique partners?
I work really closely with one author friend. Her name's SB Alexander, and her and I check in with each other at least once a week, if not more, and bounce ideas off of each other, help each other plot. Um, but then at a wider level, I don't have anything that is like a consistent, but I do have a lot of different author friends and author group friends that we will always check in with each other and help each other in any way as necessary. So it's been that aspect of it has been just really positive, and especially during the pandemic and lockdown, I felt like because so many of my friendships nowadays like are virtual, it didn't change that much since my author friends are all over the world. So it was really nice to have that.
And if there was one bit of advice that you could give a new writer that's just starting out, what would it be?
Feel like this is so cliche, but it would be to write. Because I think it's the hardest part when you think you have to have everything figured out in the beginning and you don't. It's if you can get the words down, you can always edit them, you can tweak them, you can change them, but it's just about getting the words out. And I know this might not be for everyone, but for me, I found like doing that in a consistent way and doing it, say, 500 words a day or 20 minutes a day, but just setting something that you can build off of and keeping it consistent, I think is the best way to like write your first book. And then you can go back and fix things and change things as needed. But also I would say kind of going back to what we've talked about earlier, really thinking, do I want to self-publish or do I want to try the traditional publishing route, or do I want to do hybrid, and what is that going to look like for me in my career, and like what type of timing do I need to take into account to do that? So I don't think I thought all of that through as much as the beginning. I also didn't really think that this would be like a viable career path at the beginning, so it was more spurred on by like just my passion for how much I loved writing. But I think if you want to do it as a career, you should really consider those topics earlier on.
Okay. Um, and then I do always throw in an extra question. You kind
Yeah.
of mentioned the Kindle Vella for Bitter Rockstar. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is it?
Yes,
I
I
mean, like
am.
I
I'm like
discovered it when I looked up your information. I was like, what is this? And now
Mhm.
I've seen a few others out there.
I'm it's actually a new program. I think it's only available in the US right now. It's through Kindle. It's called Vella, and it's serialized content where an author will share a certain amount of episodes, which are like chapters, and maybe once a week or twice a week or three times a week. And then the the book is the season. So maybe it's one season or two seasons or three seasons long, and it will keep going. So I wanted to try this out. And so I used a character from the Burnt Clovers trilogy. He's the drummer. His name's Maverick. I'm like obsessed with him in this story. So Mav and McKenna. McKenna is one of Allegra from the trilogy's college roommates, and it is a fake dating, like close proximity. They end up being roommates story, and then it just turns into so much more. So on Wednesday, the final episode in season 2, which is like the second book, will be releasing on Vella. And then I'm going to take a little break while I'm working on football, but then I'll be resuming with season 3, which will be their final installment in early of 2024. And then I plan to release all 3 of these seasons as ebooks on Amazon at the end of 2024. So there's more coming, but now would be a great time to start the binge because there's both seasons finished.
How many episodes per season
It
are
can
there?
be as many as you want, but mine are about 24, I think.
Okay. So there's
Yeah.
24 entries in the first season, and then
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So then
And then I
put together, it's the full book.
Yes, so season 1 is the first book, which is 24, it'd be like 24 chapters. And
Okay.
then season 2 is another, 22 or 23 episodes. So that would be book 2.
But it's the same characters.
It's the same characters. It'll be another trilogy.
Okay, so I think you mentioned something at the beginning, and I wanted to be certain. I wasn't sure. So
Yeah.
when your trilogies are just the continuation of the storyline for the same characters, so how does like book one end? Like, is it a cliffhanger?
A big
Or
cliffhanger.
I mean,
Yes. Yes. Big
okay,
cliffhanger. Book 2 ends on another big cliffhanger. The Rockstar world is the only world that has trilogies.
okay,
All of my other books are standalones except for the Second Chance Chicago series. The first 2 books in that series are a duet about the same couple. So book 1 ends on a cliffhanger, book 2 finishes their story, and then book 3 is a different couple in that world, and book 4 is a separate couple in that world. So this year was like, I really stepped out of my comfort zone. I was like, I'm going to write rock stars. I'm going to write a trilogy. I'm going to have object covers instead of, people on the cover. And I just did everything differently just to try it out. And it's
the
been so
beautiful
fun.
cover. I was gonna say it's a beautiful cover. The
Thank you. The
we have it.
designer
Rebellious
is
Rockstar. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. The designer is
Wow.
Kate
Okay,
at Y'all That Graphics. Sorry, she just does such a fantastic job. I want to shout her out.
sorry. Say it again because I think I spoke over it. So,
I'm sorry. Her name is Kate at Y'all That Graphic.
yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful cover. I loved it. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So the Kindle Vella seems to lend itself to this, the 3 seasons. So there'd be the 3 parts. Very cool. And
Yes.
I guess for people to know, like, so are they posted like the different chapters, or do you have to have like it's like I know Amazon has subscription, so is it subscription like there's a nominal fee for each of those sections, or like how
Yep.
what's
It's
the
that there are tokens.
okay
And Amazon runs different programs. I think if you sign up to read a Vella, you can get some tokens for free. But then at some point you buy tokens, and then how it works is if the episode is 2,000 words, it's 20 tokens. If it's 1,700 words, it's 17 tokens. And so you use your tokens to unlock additional episodes. And most Vella authors have some consistency with their stories. So, for example, like my new episodes come out on Sundays and Wednesdays until the season is completed. And then I usually take a little bit of a pause and then I'll start back up again.
okay
But it's
uh,
really fun. It's like a bite size, like I'm going to read a chapter in, the coffee line or the school pickup line. And so it's kind of a continuation. It reminds me a bit of like soap operas where
no,
you're just getting little snippets.
yeah, no, I follow an author. Her name is Stephanie Bond, and years ago she did that. She did, and she's done it often, but she would do it on her, I think on her website, and she would give you like different pieces of um
Mm,
of one book, but she would do it over the course of 6 months, like every day. But
okay.
you kind of had to like you would get the first. She would give you the first 10 episodes, so you could kind of get a feel for the story, and then you would get there. You would have to
Get
catch
hooked.
that day, or else wait until she published the book. Um,
Yes. Okay. So they would only be available for that
it
one.
would you to get into the
Oh,
story. She would give you the first 10, and
okay.
then after that, you would have to just make sure that every day you went in and you would get a piece.
Yes,
So
that's
it
good.
was serialized basically, like back in the day in the newspapers, but on her website. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was
that's great. I will say, Bella, the first 3 episodes of any story are free, so you can start and see if it's something you would want to invest in and read
it's
further.
interesting. And again, first I saw it was on your website, and then since then I've seen at least a couple of other authors. I'm like, now I know what that is.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you so much. Well, also thank you, Gina. This has been wonderful. I've enjoyed myself talking to you and chatting with you and learning about your writing and about your series and Kindlevella now. I learned about that. But it's been great and I wish you all the best of luck. This has been really fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Janet, for having me. It's really been wonderful and I really appreciate it. It's always nice to catch up, and especially with like New Jersey and the hometown connection. So I really appreciate your reaching out to me and inviting me to speak with you tonight and have this conversation.